Good morning, everyone. I'm Rochelle Jones. I'm the Project Finance Officer for AfriFOODlinks. We're so sorry that we couldn't do this in person, but I hope that this presentation will help you guys through your project and what you guys need to do. This will be a two-part, so it will be this presentation as well as a Libre presentation that we'll be sending to you that will give you more insight into the portal and what is required of us. So let's get started. On the agenda, I will do the timeline and the periods, reporting categories for the staff as well as your timesheet training, the travel reporting and evidence, accommodation and per diems, equipment and other costs, subcontractors and third-party links, and last but not least, overheads and the audit. So we have 3 periods. This is a 48-month project. Our first period is 18 months, the second one 18 months, and the last one will be 12 months. With this being said, our first period started on the 1st of December 2022 and will end on the 31st of May 2024. For this period, if you look on your right-hand side, for this period, we will have to use the same rate for the duration of the period. So this means we will be using 2023 rates from the 1st of Jan of this year up until the 31st of May 2024, if our financial year doesn't end within that year. So meaning that next year, we only have Jan to May, and if the financial year only ends in December, we are not allowed to use our 2024 rate, but we will need to use the previous period rate, which is our 2023 rate. From the 1st of June 2024 to the 30th of November 2025, we will need to use our 2024 rate, as our financial year has not yet ended. The last period, from the 1st of December 2025 to the 30th of November 2026, we will have to use our 2025 rates. If any of you guys need more clarification on this, don't hesitate to contact me. Payments. So the first payment that is due to all of the partners is our pre-financing payment. The pre-financing payment is to provide beneficiaries with cash to start working on the project and to continue until the first interim payment. So most of you will have received your pre-financing payments by now to help you get started on the project. The second payment will be available when a 90% ceiling is reached on the grant agreement or after the 36-month periodic period. So this payment will be to cover eligible costs incurred in the reporting periods. The final payment will be after the end of the action or the project. So this will normally be 90 days after the final report has been handed in. Please note, payments can only be based on actual costs, no planned costs, which has been incurred and has been reported. Any budgeted amount that is not spent cannot be kept as savings. Ineligible costs will be rejected if not taken into account for the payment. Also, eligible costs incurred in the reporting period will have to be reimbursed. Shifts in budgets are possible if it is justifiable. And for any shift in budget, please get in contact with your coordinator, and we will then put this forward to the EU to get EU approval. So this takes us to personnel cost. So personnel cost is hours worked times your hourly actual rate plus your additional remuneration. Personnel cost. Employees are seen as eligible when they work for the beneficiary under contract and are assigned to an action. Your hours worked. This has to be the actual hours worked on the project and not hours foreseen. Your hourly rate we either use 1720 or your organization's standard rate to calculate your hourly rate. The additional remuneration includes social charges and statutory levies. Here is an example of how the EU expects us to calculate our hourly rate. They say that there is 1,720 fixed hours, and we divide that by 12 months, and that brings us to 143.33 productive hours per month. They break it down further by showing us that the total days is 365. They take out weekends, they take out annual leave days, public holidays, sickness, other absenteeisms, and then the productive hours left is 215. And for this 215 productive days, that equates to about 8 hours per day. So that brings us to 1,720. Eligible cost. Eligible cost is direct cost, or also cost that is directly linked to an action implementation and can therefore be attributed to it directly or eligible. The beneficiaries must be able to show the link between the action with records and supportive evidence. Records and supportive evidence of all the direct costs need to be kept for audit purposes. There is, however, evidence that we as the coordinator require all of our partners to keep, and that is payslips, timesheets with a short description that I'll touch on in one of the other slides, your organization's staff rate calculation, the proof of payment, your organization's social charges, statutory levies, and most important, bonuses can only be included in the month it is paid out. Therefore, in that month, the rate used will be different. So on our year by ICLEI Africa, we pay out bonuses in December. So therefore, we will only include bonus in December. So our rate will be different to January to November. These are the timesheets that we created for the AfriFOODlinks project. These were the requirements from the EU that we all have a cohesive timesheet. So if you see here, on top will be your organization's name, the name of the project, which will be AfriFOODlinks. The contract number will be in that space over there. The name of the person working on the project, the position of that person, and your on top is the month. It's then divided up into work packages. So for instance, if I worked on work package 1 for 10 hours, I will divide my 10 hours in work package 1 across the days of the month. And then over here, I will write a short description as to what I did. So I'll say work package 1 helped with was part of a meeting, did task 3.1.2, for instance. And then the date will go there, you will sign your project manager's name, position, date, and their signature, the line manager's name, position, and date, and their signature. These were, this is extremely important that we all follow this, as from the start of the project, the 1st of December up until now, these will have to be filled in. They've made it abundantly clear that this is very, very important. If this isn't filled in properly, they may see this, this as the cost for personnel as ineligible. That takes us to travel. Each organization has a travel policy. Thus, travel expenses and meal expenses need to be recorded and processed accordingly, depending on your budgeted amounts. Covered are daily subsistence allowance, per diems, flights, local travel, for example, transfers and accommodation. All travel and meals costs reported in your financial reports has to be linked to an event or an action. And you will see further on when I explain the template that we will be using for AfriFOODlinks, that in one of the corners, we actually have a space for work packages where you can put the work package that was traveled for. So you will say work package 2, and then you'll put all the traveling expenses for work package 2 under there. Evidence required for flights are boarding passes. This I can't stress enough. Boarding passes are extremely, extremely important. They're important because this is the proof that travel was actually done for the project. So please make sure that these passes are kept, as without them, the travel may be seen as ineligible. We'll also require flight tickets. For example, 3 options to show that you chose the cheapest one, proof of payment, and invoices. This may be from your flight agencies or whatever your organization uses to do your travel. Travel and subsistence costs may be declared as actual costs, costs that has been spent. So we can't put in our travel costs that we are foreseeing to happen. It has to actually be after it has already happened. Travel and subsistence costs can be reported both for your organization's personnel and for external guests invited to an event hosted by your organization. In the second case, the amount covered is up to your organization's choice or your available budget. In case of travel for participation to a new non-planned event, they need to be necessary and linked to an action, specifically linked to the objectives of the task, work package, or project. They need to be justified in your technical report, which you will also see when you watch the leap year, where they explain to us about the portal, that there is a part of it that is a technical report where you would have to then justify all of the things that you have done. Other cost category, also events goes under other cost category as well. Events cost falls under this category and need to be actual costs in order for it to be seen as eligible. Thus meaning that this has to be linked to an action. It has to be the best value for money. It is recommended to keep proof of price comparisons, for example, 3 quotes, or your organization's own accounting practices. Record keeping for events, very important. This is an example, your organization hosts a meeting in one of the office meeting rooms with no rental fees or refreshments purchase charged. No event attendance records will then be needed. But if your organization hosts a workshop in a conference venue for which a rental fee is charged, workshop attendance records are needed. So keeping evidence for this event are as follows. Keep lists of all the people attending. Collect signatures of the event attendance. The attendance list should be signed twice a day, in the morning and after the lunch break again. Event attendance recordings is required only if there is cost associated to it, such as venue, rentals, or refreshments purchased. So participants' signatures are required not only for the EU, but also for our auditing purposes. Subcontractors. We need to keep records of all our subcontracting. We need to have in place a TOR. Make sure that you have the terms of reference in place for every subcontractor that you hire. Scoring sheets, the proposal contract plus quotes and your SLA, which is your service level agreement. Provide proof of payment and invoices, the curriculum vitae of contractors and the winning bid. The SLA terms and conditions need to be followed, as well as the payment schedule. eligible cost and indirect cost. Indirect costs are costs that cannot be identified as specific costs directly linked to the performance of the action. They are also commonly known as overhead costs. So I've gotten a lot of questions surrounding overheads, what it should be used for, what it covers. So this covers those questions. They include costs such as office rent, utilities, administration, and accounting costs, etc. So in Horizon 2020, they are calculated as a 25% fixed flat rate of the eligible direct costs minus certain direct eligible costs. Regardless of the actual indirect costs your organization may incur, no overheads can be charged on subcontracting and third-party links. So on all the other categories, but not on subcontracting and third-party links, they are automatically calculated when uploading the financial statement on the EC portal, as well as on the template that we will be sending everyone. There is no need to keep proof or records of indirect costs, as no justification is needed. In case your indirect costs are less than the reported amount, 25% of your fixed flat rate of the eligible direct costs, the difference could be used to cover other costs your organization incurs, such as extra costs not initially planned in your budgets. Example, during the course of the project, you see that you didn't budget for translations, but this was for translations, but this was not planned. You could cover it with the indirect cost reimbursement. This will be our budget breakdown. The budget breakdown may be adjusted without an amendment by transfers between participants and budget categories, as long as this does not imply any substantive or important changes to the description of action. Budget transfers where amendments is not needed. Transfers from one beneficiary to another or to a linked third party. Example, beneficiary B spends less than 300 euros on an event, while beneficiary C spends more than 300 for banner printing. They both declare actual cost and the overall amount reimbursed doesn't change. No money transfer will then be needed. Transfers from one budget category to the other. A partner planned 5,000 euros for audits under other direct costs, but they spent 7,000 actual costs on the audit. At the same time, they spent 2,000 less than planned on personnel costs. They declare actual costs for both categories and the overall amount reimbursed doesn't change. However, for any shift in any budget deviating from the original budget, please, it is recommended to get in touch with the coordinator so that this shift in budget or shift in budget can be discussed and that we can get approval from the EU. The maximum grant amount cannot be increased. The grant agreement allows transfer of budget, not of tasks. For that, an amendment is needed. Changes in subcontracting budget also requires an amendment. Record keeping. For personnel costs, time worked for the beneficiary under the action must be supported by a declaration signed monthly by the person and the supervisor. So this will be the timesheets that ICLE Africa will be providing all of our partners with. Beneficiaries and linked third parties must keep records and other supportive documents in order to prove the proper implementation and the cost declared are eligible. Beneficiaries must keep these records and other supporting documents in order for a period of up to 5 years after the final payment of the balance. So at any time during those 5 years after the project has ended, the EU can audit us, any of us at any time. So they will need us to have those documentation in order. And it has to be the original documents. So these are a few of the questions that I was asked that I didn't cover in the presentation so far. So one of the questions was, does the monthly rate in our budgets represent the charge for all personnel supporting the program? This was an average rate that they wanted us to submit. However, we use our actual rates of our personnel. So it has to be actual rates, not the average rate that we used in our proposal. Another question was, does PM stand for the number of months for the project? No, this stands for persons per month. It's calculated as your total amount of hours divided by the amount of productive hours a month. Another question was, when does ICLEI expect the first report for them to consolidate? So we expect the first report to be submitted in the second week of June, so that we can check if all of our partners are on par and following the way the EU actually wants us to do this. So that will be for us to check if everybody, and then we'll give you guys feedback. Another question was, is there an audit to be conducted when and where? So normally when an organization reaches 325,000 euros of the actual costs, you will have one audit from the EU at the end of your project. Also, the EU has the right to audit your organization anytime after the project is concluded, even if it's 5 years after the project has ended. You will have to do an internal audit, one per annum, with a CA. So the last question was, will ICLEI be providing a financial report template? The answer to that is yes, we will be providing a template at the end of the session, and I will go on to explain that right now. So this is the template that ICLEI will be providing the partners with. I'll just go through how to use it. So the project name, AfriFOODlinks, will be on top, and our project number. All of this information is already entered for everybody. The only thing you will have to change is the name of the regional office, which will be your organization's name. And the reporting period for us will be from the 1st of the 12th, 2022 to the 31st of the 5th, 2024. So this will be our first period, and this will be 18 months. The conversion rate is over here. It's an EU exchange rate portal, and this gives us our exchange rate here. So if you click on it, it takes you to the European Central Bank system. And for instance, we work in South African Rand, so we'll click on there. We'll change this to ZAR versus Euro. You will then put in the start date of the project. In this case, it's the 1st of the 12th. And then you'll put in the end date of the month before this last day. So that will be the 31st of the 3rd. And then you'll get the average over here. So this average, copy, and then go to cost overview, and that is where it will be inserted. And so everything during that period from the 1st of the 12th to the 31st of the 3rd will then use that exchange rate throughout all of the tabs. Personnel, it will If it's on the cost overview page, it will automatically pull through to all of the other tabs. The number of productive hours per month varies for South Africa than the rest of the world, I guess. Ours is 140, but everybody else uses 143.33. So you will be allowed to change this on your cost overview. On your personnel page, you can change this to your one, and then that will come to 1720. I used me as an example. So I worked on work package 1. So I will put the name, the period that I worked, my job title, and the actual hours I worked for that period, and then the hourly rate. And then the amount in your local currency will automatically calculate there. And then the amount in euro will calculate over here. If your year ends in December, and that is when you get bonus, and so December you have a different rate to the rest of the year, December will be on its own, and then January to the month that you are at right now will be on a tab underneath. So in this case, December at that rate, this rate, and Jan to March has this rate because we are taking bonus out of the calculation. So here you will add up Jan to March's time. You'll put it over here, the new rate that you used, your 2023 rate, and then it will automatically calculate. Your total hours will then take everyone's hours that has worked on the project, and it will calculate over here. The same for these totals as well. And then persons per month. So persons per month will be calculating automatically, and it takes the total amount of hours worked divided by the amount of hours that we work per month. And it divides it, and that gives us our persons per month. Which then, if you look at the bottom here, work package 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 till 7, the work names, the actual hours work divides here. If you click on here, you can see it takes work packages 1's hours and it brings it down to there. However, if you need to add someone to work package 1, you insert line, and this is then where, say the person worked 10 hours. At the same rate, you'll bring that down. You bring this down. That one as well. Automatically calculates, and then here, that person's rate or hours will then be included in the calculation. So, yeah. So this is actual hours work, persons per month for each work package. This amount, total amount of a year, always has to correspond with this total amount of a year. If it doesn't, you have to check that all of these are pulling in the proper numbers. And this will be the amount per work package that you spent for each work package according to the hours. So if you double click, it goes up there, and that is where it then says work package 1. This is the amount of euros that we spent for work package 1, and it gets brought down to there. Okay, so that takes us to travel. So on the travel page, we will need to reference the work package. So here's an example. We said work package 7, invoice number will go here, the date of the invoice here, the date of payment goes over here, the recipient, the destination, and the purpose for travel. In this case, it's the consortium meeting from the 20th to the 25th of June. We'll put the amount in there, excluding that, and then your euro amount will automatically calculate over there. The same goes for equipment. Same theory basically. And then that takes us to other costs. So other cost has the same concept to the others, but if a line item was paid in a different currency, like in this case, it was paid in euros. So you will have your euro amount, and then you will then convert it into your local currency over here. But if it was paid in your local currency, you will have your local currency over there, and it will convert to euros over there. Subcontractors, the same, very straightforward, as well as third-party links. So then this brings us to the cost overview page. So the cost overview page, over here in the budget in euros, you will put your budgeted amount for every category. So in this case, your personnel cost, this line will add up travel costs, equipment, and other costs as one amount over here, your subcontracting cost, and your third-party cost. And that will bring you to your total that you would have in the grant agreement. The reporting period is 1 to 18 months, and this amounts over here will automatically calculate from your tabs. And then this will show the balance for each of those line items. Also, your indirect cost, which is your 25% overheads, will automatically calculate over here on your actual costs. So this is amounts actually spent. So this amount then brings us to that. That's how much overheads we have for these amounts here. And then that will give us our balance for our overheads. Underneath that, with our work packages, you will put your budgeted amount for each work package, which you guys have. So you'll put your budgeted amount for each of them over here. And then the amount in euros per work package will pull through from personnel. So this one will pull through from there, the other one from there, and the other one from there. And then it will show you balance that you have remaining per work package. Under that, you'll have to enter your persons per month. So in our case, 5 persons per month work package 1, 6 work package 2, and so on. And then the total persons per month will automatically then calculate from your personnel as well. So from here, it will pull through till there so that you can keep track of how much balance you have after you fold in everything. Now, as you can see, this total here by total persons per month is the same as this one over here. So it has to correspond to each other. So that brings us to the last thing. All of this then pulls through to the financial statement. So this looks a lot like the portal itself. And it's made to automatically pull through so that you can check and see if all of your totals are correct. So we don't change anything on this page. It's just to make it easier for all of us when we do report on the portal. So that is it from me. That is the training question answer session. And I hope that I was understood and that I've made things more clear. And whatever you guys didn't understand, don't hesitate to email me. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Yeah, so expect another video will then be added to this video. So that it makes it easy for you guys to understand the actual portal and how to, and all the do's and don'ts. So thank you. Have a good day.